Okay, so I put up the screen and the words understanding and valuing diversity come up. What are some of the things you all thought I heard as those words were read? Yes, a lot of times when we see the word diversity or we hear the word diversity, our first assumption is, oh, here we go again, right? Hopefully you will not feel that way, and we have a bet going, we have an agreement going. He's going to let me know if I'm giving you another spin on diversity by the end of this hour, okay? So here we are, we're talking about understanding and valuing diversity. We're going to talk about, and see, when I talk about diversity, yeah, great, we can talk about it up here, but let's make sure that it's practical to not just, you know, as you walk around this campus as a Penn State student, but your involvement in the TI program. So we're going to understand and value diversity by the end of this. And I'm working on my PhD in education, my undergrad is in education, my master's in education, so I'm all about learning objectives. So our outcomes by the end of this, you will increase awareness about the meaning of diversity, right? To explore what it means to understand and value diversity, and to identify personal actions around promoting diversity. So, what does diversity mean to you? I know we heard, ugh, not again. That's what it means to some people. What else does diversity mean? Differences. Okay. Okay. That's fine. There's no right or wrong answers here. That's the great thing about being diverse. What else? Okay. What else you got when you hear the word diversity? Appreciation of variety. Okay. Anything else? I want to make sure your voices are heard. Well, let's see what we mean when we talk about diversity. Here we have the 4 layers of diversity, and this is how we like to look at diversity. We talked about, okay, differences, hodgepodge, race, gender. So we have our internal, that inner circle right there in the middle, and that says personality. This is who you are, how you came into this world. It is innate in you, right? It's how you were made. It's you. No one can change your personality, so you may be outgoing, you may be very shy, you may be very organized, A-type personality, I need everything color-coded and in alphabetical order, or you may just be que sera, sera, whatever will be, I'm just laid back, life happens. So that is who you are, it's your personality, and we all have different personalities. The next layer are our internal dimensions. So what are some of the things that we have here in the internal dimensions? We have race, age, gender, sexual orientation, physical ability, and ethnicity. What do you notice about our internal dimensions? What do you think those represent in us? What are they? Okay. Okay. Anyone else? What else do you notice when you hear race, age, gender? What do you think of when you hear those specific ones? Ability. Okay. You can't change them. What else? Because a lot of them are outward, right? Or there may be a behavior or an action that may speak to some of them. What else? What if I said the word historically? You look at that layer, and what do you see? Yes. Yes. So these are the discriminated classes, right? These are the protected classes. And so there's been legislation put into practice so that these classes more so are more protected. And why? Because it's what people see when they look at us. So you saw me walk in, you know I was a black female, right? My race and my gender is very prevalent. And so you can see those things. And so here, we're not also talking about differences. We're talking about equity. We're talking about leveling the playing field, and that's why those legislations have been put into play. Tell me how historically have we tried to level the playing field as it relates to gender? Exactly. Women did not always have the right to vote, right? And if you were a black woman, you were just stuck, right? What about sexual orientation? How are we trying to level the playing field with sexual orientation around LGBT issues? Exactly. So there's the fight for legislation so that those in the LGBT community can have the same rights and privileges as those in the heterosexual community, right? So when we look at the internal dimensions, primarily we're focusing on equity, not just diversity and saying these are the areas that have been discriminated against, but looking and saying, okay, historically they've been discriminated against, but what are we doing now to make sure that everyone is receiving the same rights and privileges? Then the next layer, those are our external dimensions. What do you notice about them? Things that you can change, good. What else? Yes, very good. Yes. Anything else? Right, and choices, right? So these are the areas where you start to make your choices. Do I want a family? Do I want an education? Where do I want to go for my education? What type of work experience do I have? My appearance, how do I want to look? How do I want others to perceive me when I walk out? Am I going to dress grunge? Am I going to dress preppy? So your appearance has a lot to do with that as well. Personal and recreational habits, the choices that you make. Are you choosing to be a couch potato, which is fine? Are you choosing to go hiking? Are you choosing to play video games? So some of the actions and behaviors that you choose are within the external dimensions. And again, as I stated before, these are the areas that you kind of got to dig a little deeper to find out about, right? So you have to communicate with people to find out what's going on in these areas. The fourth layer are the organizational dimensions. And this is basically where you fall in line within an organization. So we're all here, we're somehow within that organizational structure here at Penn State. Some may say we're students, so we're at the very bottom, but I'd like to believe that we're somewhere at the top, right? So where do you fit in within the organizational structure? When you graduate, when you work for a company, where do you fit in? Are you a manager? Do you supervise others? Are you supervised? How do you fit into that organizational structure? And then there's diversity within that organizational structure as well. Are you affiliated with a union? If not, where do you work? Where's your work location? Are you constantly outside? Are you always on your feet? Are you in an office? Does your office have a window? There's diversity amongst all of that. There's a fifth layer that's my invisible layer that I like to add, and I call it the global layer. And this is, depending on what's occurring in global society, how is it affecting me, right? So depending on what's happening, throw out some answers. What's going on globally right now? War, the economy, gas prices are going up. They're going to be $2 soon. I'm not happy about that. What else? What else is happening in our society? You said war. It's okay. We just got a new president, right? So our government is changing. It's in a process right now, going through a process. And so you could place within that layer maybe political affiliation if you wanted to. For someone who was constantly out there, even last year, maybe you were out there and you were trying to get voters for Hillary. Or if you were out there trying to get voters for McCain or for Obama. So no matter where you were within that process, you were still involved in the process. Even if you voted, you were involved in the process, right? So for some, it may mean more to some than it does to others. So depending on where you fall, depending on what's going on in the global society, it can be affecting you. If you have a family member who is serving right now overseas, that's going to hit you closer to home than someone who doesn't know anybody that's currently serving in the war, right? So depending on what's happening in our global society and how you fit into that, depends on how that can be connecting to you and affecting you as well.